Tilly has returned to her hometown to take care of her sick mother, but she also has another purpose. Although Tilly was accused of the murder, she is unable to recall what happened that day, so she asks her mother if she remembers anything about the incident. However, Molly is unable to even recall her own daughter. It turns out that after Tilly was sent away, her mother Molly became mentally unstable and has been living on her own. The following day, we see some Dung-Ata boys competing in a football game against a rival town. When stunning Tilly shows up at the game wearing a red dress, the boys become sidetracked. Team captain Teddy confronts Tilly and begs her not to cause any more distractions while explaining how crucial it is for the boys to win. Tilly leaves, but seconds later she returns wearing an even more magnificent black dress. Outside, she sees her childhood friend Gertrude, who is unattractive and has good taste in clothing. Alone and sad when standing, Gertrude has a crush on William, a handsome and successful man, but he doesn't even notice her because she is so unassuming. Tilly offers to make her a dress for the football players' dance party when Gertrude says that a dress can't change anything. Tilly advises her to watch and learn as she approaches the football field. As a result, the opposing team is distracted, and the Dung-Ata boys go on to win that day. When Tilly saw the school where Stuart died, she went inside and recalled how Stuart bullied her and she had to climb into an upper floor to hide. When she saw Gertrude, she asked for help, but the latter simply walked away after she asked, until he descended. Tilly and her mother had visited an elderly woman named Irma who had been sending food to Molly all these years. Despite remembering the most of the event, Tilly is unable to recollect how Stuart died that night at home. Stuart covered her mouth with his hand, pulled her to a corner, and held her against the wall before threatening to murder her and her mother. Gertrude interrupts their conversation and asks Tilly to design a dress for her. Tilly agrees, but in exchange she asks if Gertrude told Stuart where she was hiding before. Stuart also teased Gertrude, and she revealed that she told him where Tilly was to protect himself the next day until he bumped into Teddy, who immediately stopped him. When he encounters Tilly that evening, Sergeant Ferrato arrives at her home. Ferret confesses that he exiled Tilly because Stuart's father Evan, a town councilor, threatened to expose him as a crossdresser if he didn't send Tilly away. Surprisingly, instead of being angry, Tilly thanks him for his honesty, and the two become friends over their shared passion for designer clothes. On Saturday during the footballers' dance party, when Gertrude's dress was discovered to be missing, Tilly went to the dance party in William's place. Teddy and Molly attend a movie together. Following the film, Teddy brings the mother-daughter duo home. When Molly requests to stay for tea, he agrees and strikes up a conversation with Tilly. She is excited to tell him about all the places she has traveled for work, but she becomes upset when she explains that she and her mother are despised by the locals who will not forgive them for Stuart's death. Teddy consoles her by saying that people are bond. Teddy confesses his feelings to Tilly, but she declines, saying she has to put her mother to bed. The following day, the ladies who were awestruck by Gertrude's transformation come to Tilly's and ask her to make dresses for them soon. Meanwhile, jealous Evan hires a rival dressmaker to compete with Tilly's business, but the strategy fails when Gertrude asks her to make an elegant wedding dress because Una made an awful one. The next day, William, who is getting married to Gertrude, asked Teddy to be his best man, and the latter agreed. Teddy then visits Tilly and asks her to make a suit for him while taking the measurements for the suit. The two of them get too close and end up kissing elsewhere. Una is devastated that all her custom has been destroyed. While Marigold watches them from a window and visits Tilly's house to make herself a dress, Evan consoles her and it is revealed that the two are having an affair. As they converse, we learn that Marigold believes her son Stuart fell from a tree and that is unaware of the rumor that Tilly killed Stuart. Marigold reveals that Beulah, Tilly's former instructor, may have been the one to see the animal's demise. In order to induce Beulah to testify, Tilly goes to Ferret and offers him a feathered boa as payment. Then, she meets Beulah and shouts at her for making a false statement. It turns out that Beulah arrived after Stuart's death and blamed Tilly, fearing that Evan would accuse her. After Tilly leaves, Beulah goes to the wedding and tells Marigold that her son didn't die accidentally but that he was killed by Tilly. In the meantime, Tilly arrives at the wedding and informs Ferret that Beulah's statement was false. At first, Beulah tries to stick with her original statement, but when Tilly threatens to sue her, Teddy becomes enraged and nearly begins a fight with Evan as Marigold breaks down and accuses Tilly of being a killer. Evan is horrified. Then Tilly begs Ferret to inform everyone that she is not a murderer, but he responds that his word would be meaningless since everyone in town had an alibi and Tilly was the only one who was furiously standing next to Stuart's corpse. Teddy follows after Tilly. When she leaves them behind, Barney yells wildly that Tilly moved as Molly and Barney pursue her. Barney exclaims that he saw Stuart do the subsequent self-harm. Teddy comforts Tilly by telling her that she didn't murder Stuart after recalling the events of that sad night when they are at the schoolhouse. Teddy tells her that Stuart used to run out of their kids' reach like a bull and hit them in the stomachs. Suddenly, Tilly remembers that she moved when Stuart ran like a bull to hit her stomach, causing him to hit his head on the wall and die instantly. Teddy also says that Barney saw everything from the top of the silo but was reluctant to come forward because he was worried people would think he was crazy. When Teddy asked Tilly to marry him, she hesitated again and said that she was cursed. Teddy mentioned that he doesn't believe in curses and he wants to prove to Tilly that it's only her delusion, though she tries to stop him. They spend the night together and make love. Later, they go and sit on the top of the same silo. Teddy dejectedly dives into the silo. Following Teddy's passing, Tilly meets his mother and assists her at the funeral. A few days later, Molly visits a grocery store where several women accuse Tilly of killing Teddy and call her curse her. Molly calms them down by explaining that Teddy died in an effort to demonstrate that his left fertility was stronger than the townspeople's hatred. Back at the house, Molly awakens Tilly, who has been shunted following Teddy's passing, and tries to help her get over the loss. Miracle the next day, Gertrude and her mother-in-law want Tilly to create costumes for them for a theatrical competition. But Tilly kicks them out and says she'd rather die than make costumes for selfish people like them. Molly urges her daughter to exploit her incredible dressmaking skills. Molly visits her friend Irma and asks her to drop off a letter to the post office because the locals won't let her, but it turns out she is sending the letter on Tilly's behalf to the opposing team of the drama competition. Before leaving, she gives Irma a box of hash brownies. On the way back home, Molly suffers a stroke and passes away, which sends Tilly into a deeper depression. That night, she drinks heavily with friends. Almanac, the local chemist who mistreated Tilly as a child, drowns in a pond behind his house because his wife Irma is high on hash browns after Tilly throws a record player outside the house and hits her head the next day. Tilly boards a train to Melbourne believing she is going to get treatment, but in reality, Bart is sending her to an asylum. Once again, everyone turns against Tilly when the chemist's assistant realizes the brownies were baked at her home. But this time, Sergeant Farrad stands up for her and takes the blame himself. As a result, he is exiled from the community until the next day when he meets Marigold and spills the beans about Evan's extramarital affairs. This infuriates Marigold, and when Evan arrives, she stabs him in the leg. After reading the letter, Tilly learns that her mother did all of this for her, and she offers to work for them to win the competition. A few days later, the town's residents came to the drama competition when they discovered that Tilly had manufactured their opponent's outfit back in Dungata. Before setting her home on fire and rolling a red cloth drenched in gasoline to the town's center, Tilly, who is by herself and prepared to leave the town forever, declares that she is no longer cursed and boards a train for Paris. When the Dungata residents return after losing the tournament, the whole town has been burned to the ground, adding to their suffering.